Math 1, Section 12, Writing Linear Equations. So in this lesson, we're going to be looking at writing linear equations given some information. So like in the first two, we've got a point and the slope. And in the second one, we've got 2 points. And then we go back to the point and the slope. And what's going to be different in some of these is that this one asks for standard form. This one's going to ask for slope-intercept form. And then it's also going to ask for, point-slope form. Right? Now, point-slope form will be new for you, or it might be new for you. Let's first start off by talking about what point-slope form is. Point-slope form, that is y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1, where x1, y1 is a point, and m is your slope. Now, while this might not be the most simplified equation, it might not be the easiest to read aloud, it has a lot of information in it, right? You can, by looking at this, you can see, well, here's my slope, just like how you can do that in slope-intercept form, and here's a point. So you already know a point that's on the line, and you know the slope of the line. Now, let's just grab this and pull it over here for a second. If I were to divide by the x minus x1, I'd have, let me just rewrite that. I'd have y minus y1 equals m x minus x1, and I'm going to divide by x minus x1 on both sides. These guys would cancel, and I'd have y minus y1 over x minus x1 equals m. Now that should remind us of a formula that we already know. That is our slope formula, right? We have slope equals, and normally on our slope formula we would write like y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. But that's where that formula comes from. So we can kind of see how that kind of relates. That can be helpful whenever you're needing to remember what is point-slope form. Yeah, that should be useful for you. So, starting with numbers 1 and 2, it says, write the standard form of the equation of the line. So standard form is ax plus by equals c. Now there's a few different ways that we can go about getting this. The easiest way, I think, is to start off by putting this and this into point-slope form, and then rearranging the equation. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, well, this is my x1, this is my y1, and I'm just going to copy the formula down so that we have it. Y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. And I'm going to plug in, here's my m, right? So I'm going to have y minus negative 5 equals 6 x minus negative 1. Right, and we should say, well, those double negatives go to positive, and they do. So now we need to try and make it look more like general form or standard form. I'm going to distribute my 6 to the x and to the 1, so I'm going to have y plus 5 equals 6x plus 6. And now I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides, and I get y equals 6x plus 1. Let me write down what I did there. I subtracted 5 from both sides. Those guys canceled. And there is my, oh, that's slope-intercept form, right? But we need standard form, so I'm going to subtract my x to the other side, and we're going to have, let me write that down, negative 6x, negative 6x. These guys cancel, and I've got negative 6x plus y equals 1. And there's our general form. Now, there's going to be one trick. If you're doing these problems multiple choice, sometimes this won't be listed as an answer. And the reasoning there is that sometimes people like this 6x to be positive. They want it to be positive if you can. And that's just more of like a grammar kind of thing, just a semantics. If you're doing this on paper for me, I'm definitely okay with you leaving a negative there. But if you're doing multiple choice and you notice that there isn't that, multiply everything by a -1, on both sides. And then you'd have 6x minus y equals -1. And your answer will be one of these two guys there, right? All we did was we multiplied by -1. It's the same equation of the line, it just looks a little different. All right, so there's number 1. We'll do number 2 now, and maybe we'll do it a little bit faster. So again, I'm going to do point-slope form. So here's x1, here's y1, here's m. So I'm going to have y minus -1 equals 2x minus 2. This is going to be y plus 1 equals 2x minus 4. This is going to be y equals 2x minus 5. And -2x plus y equals -5. So there's my answer. And just like last time, sometimes we don't want to have that negative in the front. So I'm going to multiply everything by -1. And I get 2x minus y equals 5. And there's an answer. So it would be either one of those two answers would be listed. All right. Next up, number 3. This says write the standard form of the equation. So the directions are the same, the exact same, standard form, standard form. The way that I like to do these problems is I like to start off looking at my 2 points, and I like to find my slope, and then it's like numbers 1 and 2. So let's do that. So my slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to start off doing that. I'm going to have -4 minus -5 over -1 minus 5. That's going to be, well, here's a plus, 1 over -6. So that's my slope. And now I need to grab one of the points for point-slope form, because we're going to try to do it like we did last time in the last problem. So I'm going to use, there's my slope, and here's my point. I normally grab the first point. So I'm going to have y minus -5 equals -1 over 6. Oops, sorry about that. Where was I? I forgot what I was doing. All right, so we got our slope here, and now the blue stuff that's highlighted, we want to put that in point-slope form. So we're going to have y minus -5. Let me fix my pen. Equals -1 over 6, x minus 5. Right? So here we have actually a plus. So I'm going to have y plus 5 equals, and I'm going to multiply out my fraction. Actually, you know what? We could do that a little bit better. I don't want to multiply out my fraction. What if I multiplied by 6 on both sides? That would make it a little bit easier. Then we get rid of our fraction. So this 6 and this 6 would cancel. We can't forget that negative. That negative is going to be there, and we're going to have 6y plus 30 equals -x minus 5. Yeah, that's a little bit easier to mess with. So we have 6y plus 30 is -x plus 5. We want our variables on the left and our constants on the right, so I'm going to add x to both sides and subtract 30. So we're going to have x plus 6y equals -25. And there we are. Oops. That's our standard form. All right. Number 4, we're doing the exact same thing. We're going to need to start off by finding our slope. So I'm going to say, well, 4 minus 1 over 3 minus 0 equals, well, 4 minus 1 is 3. 3 minus 0 is 3. 3 over 3 is 1. So here's my slope. Here's my point. Y minus 1 is 1 times the quantity x minus 0. Well, that's awesome. We have a 0. That's going to go away. Right? And remember, this is point slope. We need to rearrange this. We're going to have, well, y minus 1 equals x. Right? That 1 can kind of just drop right here. This 1 can drop, and that 0 can go away. So we're left with just plain old x. We'll subtract x and put it on the left, so we're going to have negative x plus y, and we're going to have our 1 go to the other side, so we have a 1. Now, like I've talked about in the first two problems, sometimes we want to multiply by negative 1 on both sides here, and we would get x minus y equals negative 1. So one of these two answers will be listed. There we are. All right, this one here. Write the slope-intercept form. Right, so let's remember what slope-intercept form is. That is y equals mx plus b, the sacred form of a line. Now, I'm going to approach numbers 5 and 6 like I did numbers 1 and 2, right? They both, let me zoom out a little bit. They both have a point and a slope. Point and slope. They're done the same way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first put it into point-slope form like I did right here in number 1, and then I'll work from there. So let's start off putting this in point-slope form. So I'm going to have y minus 1 equals negative 1, x minus negative 5. This double negative turns into a positive, and in the next step I'm going to distribute this negative to both of those. So I'm going to have y minus 1 equals negative x minus 5. Now, I'm trying to make it look like y equals mx plus b. So I want to get my y by itself. I'm going to add 1 to both sides, and I get y equals negative x minus 4. And there we are. That's it. That is it. All right, number 6. Again, I'm going to approach it the same way. I'm going to put it in point-slope form. So I'm going to have y minus negative 4 equals 4 times the quantity x minus negative 2. Right. Now, the reason that I have these double negatives here, I know I've talked about it before, but again, this negative is in the formula, and this is right there. All right, my double negatives turn into positives. And just like last time, I'm going to distribute my 4. So I'm going to have y plus 4 equals 4x plus 8. I subtract 4 because I want a y equals as my answer. And y equals 4x plus 4. There we are. That is our answer. All right. The directions here say write the slope-intercept form of the equation, just like in the last time, only now we have 2 points. So like we did on numbers, what are we talking about? Numbers 3 and 4, we got to start off by finding our slope. So this is kind of like 2 problems in one. So I'll find my slope. I'm going to have, 2, here, let me do a different color for the slope. All right, so I'm finding the slope in black. I'm going to have 2 minus 3 over 4 minus negative 1. Well, the double negative there turns into positive. I'm going to have negative 1 over 5. That's my slope. I could probably go ahead and do that in number 8 too. I think I will. Number 8, if I find my slope, I'm going to have, 2 minus 1 over 3 minus 5. That's going to be 1 over negative 2. Is that right? 1 over negative 2. Yeah, that's my slope. So now both of these problems are like the last ones. We have a point, and here's our slope. We have a point, and here's our slope. So I'm going to work just number 7 now. I'm going to put it in point-slope form, so I'm going to have y minus 3 equals negative 1 over 5 times the quantity x minus negative 1. Those double negatives turn into a positive. And now I'm going to need to distribute this negative 1/5 to both of those. So here I have y minus 3 equals negative 1/5 x minus 1/5, right? It's negative because we were distributing a negative. Now I'm going to need to add 3 to both sides. Those guys cancel, and I have y equals negative 1/5 x plus, I don't know, let's come over here and look at this. We have 3 minus 1/5. Well, that would be the same thing as 15 over 5 minus 1/5, which is 14 over 5. I'm going to check that with the calculator just to make sure. 3 minus 1, ABC 5. Yes, all right, good. And oops. And there's our answer. All right, same thing with number 8. There's my point, there's my slope, so I'm going to have y minus 1 equals negative 1/2 x minus 5. So I'm going to have y minus 1 equals negative 1/2 x plus 5/2. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Y equals negative 1/2 x plus, well, I've got 5/2 plus 1. Well, that's the same thing as 5/2 plus 2 over 2, which is 7 over 2. There we are. All right, there's our answers to number 7 and 8. Now, 9 and 10, I think they get a little bit even easier. So we have to write point slope of the equation, point slope form. So I'm going to say, well, y minus negative 1 equals 0, x minus 1. That double negative turns into a positive. And this 0, well, 0 times x minus 1, that's all just going to go to 0. So this kind of just goes away. So we have y plus 1 equals 0. And that's it. We could rewrite this as y equals negative 1 if we wanted to. But this is a kind of a special case scenario because our slope is 0. This is a horizontal line. So I'm not sure which one the multiple choice will show you, but it'll be one of those two. All right, number 10. Here's our x, here's our y, here's our m. So we're going to have y minus negative 3 equals negative 1/5, x minus negative 5. Our double negatives turns into positives. And our final answer is going to be y plus 3 is negative 1/5, x plus 5. It's that easy. Right, because we wanted point slope form. Oops, let me get that parenthesis there. Point slope form, and that is point slope form. All right, numbers 11 and 12, we're going to have to start off by finding our slope. I'm going to do that in black again. So I'm going to have 2 minus 1 over 0 minus negative 3. Well, that's the same thing as 1 over 3. So that's our slope. Let's go ahead and do that for number 12 also. So negative 5 minus 5 over 1 minus negative 2. That's negative 10 over, is that 3? 3. And that's our slope. All right. Now, here's where it's going to be a little bit different. We have a point and a slope, or we have this point and this slope, right? Normally, multiple choice questions will start with the first point. They'll use the first point. So let me write this 2 times. I'll use this orange color. So y minus 1 equals 1/3 x minus negative 3. So really that's a plus. So that answer might be listed, but if that answer isn't listed, let's go back and do the problem again with the green point. So I'm going to have, well, y minus 2 equals 1/3 x minus 0, which is the same thing as y minus 2 equals 1/3 x. Okay. Either of this one or this one are good answers. Normally, like I said, multiple choice questions will start with the first one listed, the first point listed. But if it's not listed, go back and do it with the second point. All right, number 12. So again, we have 2 points. So we need to start off with the orange one, and then after you finish with the orange one, the first point, you're going to check and see, well, is that listed? And if it's not listed, then you're going to look at the second point. So we're going to have y minus 5 equals negative 10 over 3 x minus negative 1. Really, that's an x plus 1. So we're done with that. We're going to see if that's listed as our multiple choice. Let's say that that is not listed, just for the sake of doing extra work. And we're going to have y minus negative 5, so really that's a plus, equals negative 10 over 3 x minus 1. So one of these two will be listed as your answer. Normally it's the orange one, but I want to show you the green one just in case. All right.